worked extremely successfully in treating erectile dysfunction. So, well, now we know Robert doesn't have that problem because he.
Welcome to PricePlow.
Hey everyone, this is Mike and Robert with PricePlow.com, the best website to compare prices and get supplement deals and read all about cool stuff on the blog. And so a lot of people are really interested in the nootropics or the cognitive brain enhancers out there, and a lot of them are, really pretty aggressive. But there's been one that's a lot of people haven't been talking about, and it's actually just a vitamin or an enhanced form of a vitamin.
Correct. Sulbutiamine. So you'll see it pronounced all different kinds of ways. Sulbutiamine, sulbutiamine.
I'm just going to call it sulbutiamine.
Yeah, we're going to say, for the purposes of this video, sulbutiamine. And if we're doing this wrong, just let us know down below and I'll correct it. But what it is a synthetic form of the B vitamin, thiamine, vitamin B1. The reason it was created was back in 1930s Japan, they were noticing a lot of their sailors were coming down with a condition called beriberi, which is it's degenerative alterations and things that are changing in your CNS. So the reason they were having this is because of a thiamine deficiency. The reason you get a thiamine deficiency is over-reliance on hyper-processed foods, a lot of white rice. So, and Asian cultures don't eat a lot of whole grains; they eat a lot of white rice, which that removes all the nutrients.
Especially on the boat, they probably just brought a ton of
the
rice out there.
Rice, Uncle Ben's or something, whatever the Japanese equivalent of Uncle Ben's is. So researchers came and started tinkering around and figured out what do we need to do to increase levels of thiamine in the body, since the regular form of thiamine, or the ones that you find in multivitamins, thiamine disulfide, isn't really that effective at increasing brain levels of thiamine due to its inability to cross the blood-brain barrier. So they started tinkering around with it, and with that they came up with a synthetic form of sulbutiamine, or this synthetic form of thiamine called sulbutiamine, which is basically two molecules of thiamine that have been fused together. They're bonded together, which makes it essentially tricks the brain into allowing more thiamine into it. So
they kind of hacked the vitamin so that it actually gets into past the blood-brain barrier.
Correct. It's fat soluble now, which means it can cross the blood-brain barrier. Cool. And it's been shown to be 2.4 times more effective at increasing brain levels of thiamine than regular thiamine.
Nice. Okay.
So the cool thing is about the way it actually works in your brain. So it actually affects three different neurotransmitters in your body. It affects the glutaminergic, cholinergic, and dopaminergic. So what it'll do is it'll potentiate glutaminergic activity in the prefrontal cortex. It increases cholinergic activity in the hippocampus. And it will, the way it works with dopamine is a little bit different. A lot of the stimulants and a lot of other nootropic agents you'll try increases dopamine levels in the body, increases dopamine production. Sulbutiamine works just a little bit different. What it does with that is it actually decreases the amount of dopamine that your body's producing. But what it does is that actually increases the number of dopamine receptors. This is the way your brain kind of reworks and rehacks itself. It increases the number of dopamine receptors, which sensitizes them more, and actually you start to feel the effects of dopamine a little bit more. So we've got those three different mechanisms of action with sulbutiamine, and that's where we start to see some really, really cool effects on what this nootropic can do.
Okay, so what are some of the effects that we get? I think the main ones that we need to call out are improved memory and reduction of fatigue. A lot of people who feel fatigued, they're not necessarily tired or sleepy, they might actually have a deficiency here. Correct. And so this can help alleviate that. And there's been studies that show that you can reduce your fatigue by taking sulbutiamine.
Yeah, you can reduce fatigue, increase wakefulness, improve your memory, since it helps with synaptic plasticity, long-term potentiation, things like that. So you remember things better, your brain processes things a whole lot faster, you're more with it, you're more cognizant of things that are going on. But the really cool thing is some of the bonus effects that we get with this, which is the part you've been waiting to get to.
So there's also been some research showing, and it worked extremely successfully in treating erectile dysfunction. So, now we know Robert doesn't have that problem because he just had a kid. Yeah. He doesn't have that problem at least once.
Yeah, at least one time in my life.
But overall, though, there's a lot of really cool effects where we're realizing that if you have a thiamine deficiency, then things don't work. A lot of things don't work, and it's more than just your memory or feeling tired. And so erectile dysfunction can be treated. It's worth trying, at least if you have that issue, with sulbutiamine.
Yeah, so I thought that was a pretty fun one. Or some of those other Franken chemicals that are out there. You want to try a more natural option, we can do that.
Yeah. So we have a blog post on the PricePlow blog
Mm-hmm.
where we're starting to get into a lot more of these nootropics. We did a video on L-tyrosine, which actually works with dopamine a lot differently.
Correct.
So you can look at how that kind of gets you all focused. But this one's a little bit different. And what's really nice is that it's been researched and it's been around since the 1930s.
Correct.
Like pre-World War II Japan, and so it's clearly very safe. Now we should talk about like the doses and everything. We have many different products out there on PricePlow.com. And so you could look at the blog post and you compare prices in there, but basically it seems like it's about 400 to 600 milligrams per day.
Yeah, that's the ideal dose, and most of the capsules that you'll find out there come in 100 to 200 milligram doses. And there's a few products on the market that already have this. A couple of fat burners and the occasional pre-workout might have it.
Right.
But most of the time, if you're wanting to try this ingredient, you're probably going to need to buy it in bulk and then supplement it with other things.
Yeah, we're not seeing that. It seems like after doing the research that this stuff is like really underrated and not discussed enough, and it's worth trying if you're kind of like lethargic or tired or any of those other effects that it treats. There was one product out there and you could look at our price comparisons that had 500 milligram capsules. So I'm not sure what would happen if you took 2 of those, if it's too much or anything, but one of those might be good for the day. But otherwise, splitting up like 200 milligram capsules throughout the day could be like kind of the go-to dosage to see if it kind of helps you stay awake a little bit better.
Yeah, a morning dose and a night dose.
And I wouldn't even say a night dose though. Can it keep you up a little bit?
Like can, if you're particularly sensitive to it. So maybe an early afternoon.
I'd say like breakfast and lunch dose might make sense.
Right. The other good thing is that since this is more on it's not as aggressive as things like modafinil and other nootropics like that. There's really no established side effects to this. It's pretty safe all around. And if you're wanting to experiment with nootropics, but you don't want to get into some of the crazy stuff, this and tyrosine are 2 of the best ones that you can kind of start with.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in terms of like if you're like more of a conservative supplement user or anything, this is definitely one that you could use to get focused. You don't see it at all the stores all the time, which is like. It was of concern when we started doing the research, and then I'm like, wait, why isn't this at any of the stores? Because the stuff looks really cool.
Right.
It looks completely legal. As a supplement, the Shea Act states that you can combine 2 other legal ingredients, and that's what this is, a combination of 2 simple vitamins. And it seems to work really well, but it does get into the blood-brain barrier. So there's also some studies kind of showing that it helps treat more serious illnesses. I mean, erectile dysfunction is technically, a serious disease too or whatever.
Right,
but there's also like
Alzheimer's
and dementia and everything like that
prevents,
too.
It's also neuroprotective. It prevents neuronal cell death. It helps fight that. So that's another great benefit of this.
If you're concerned about that stuff, then obviously you got to talk to your doctor and everything. But in terms of just regular Joe user who's a healthy user, but you notice that you're just maybe a little bit tired, hey, this is worth trying, it seems like. And after like doing the research, writing the blog post, I'm like, why are we not using this?
Exactly.
Is kind of the question. So
we're gonna need to test this on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a review. But overall, the science looks really sound. It's been around for a long time. The prices aren't terrible. Like everything's running up good, and it's overall a very safe molecule. Yeah. So subscribe to our channel, and we're gonna have more of these discussions on these different nootropics. We'll link back to the L-tyrosine video as well, which works with dopamine in a different way, like I stated. And we're gonna be coming out with more of these videos, and you can check out the blog post for all the details, all the sites, all the sources are cited, and we have the price comparisons there, so you can save money on Sulbutiamine. Thank you.
There we go.